Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing our second day in our measurement unit, and we're going to be talking about centimeters. First of all, let's discuss what measurement is. Measurement is when we measure something. We can measure length, height, we can measure how much something weighs, we can measure liquid. There are a lot of different ways to measure things, but today we're focusing on measuring length and height. Those two things can be measured using inches, feet, yard, centimeters, meters. We are going to be focusing on centimeters today. We talked about inches in our last lesson, so let's look at what centimeters are. Before we do that, let's discuss some of those measurements that we talked about before. First of all, we have our U.S. measurements, and in the United States, we use inches, feet, and yards. Now, we talked about how we have 12 inches in a foot, which is a ruler. We have 12 inches there. We have 3 feet in a yard, so we have 3 of those feet, 3 of those rulers in 1 yard. And in that yard, we have 36 inches because there are 12 inches in a foot. And if I have 12 inches in a foot and 3 feet in a yard, 12 times 3 is 36. So there are 36 inches in a yard. The main thing you're going to want to remember here is that there are 12 inches in a foot. And a foot is a ruler. This is a ruler right here, this purple. That is what we're looking at, okay? And a yardstick is this one back here. Okay, this is our yardstick. And 3 of these guys will fit inside of this yardstick. Now, we also have a tape measure here, and I'm going to get to the longest one in just a second because that is what we're talking about today. Today, we are talking about other types of measurements that people across the world use. People use something called the metric system. A lot of places in Europe use this system, and in America, you can kind of see it used sometimes, especially in science. But you need to know how to use centimeters as well as inches. So another form of measurement is the metric system. We use centimeters and meters here. The measurement that you need to know for this is that 100 centimeters equal a meter. A meter stick looks like this, okay? So I want you to picture how long this meter stick is. Inside of this meter stick, there are 100 centimeters. A centimeter is about this big. It is much smaller than an inch. And in a second, we're going to look at our ruler that has the centimeter side and an inch side, and you are going to see that centimeters are smaller than an inch. So we can look at this meter stick and kind of look at how it's similar to our yardstick. So we have centimeters, 100 of them equal a meter, and this meter stick is about 3 inches longer than our yardstick. So meters are actually even longer than our yardstick. So when we're talking about measuring, we have the smallest thing is a centimeter. The next smallest is an inch. Then we have a foot, which is 12 inches. Then we have a yard, which is 36 inches. And then we have a meter, which is 100 centimeters, okay? Which I know it sounds confusing, but it's actually easier to measure in centimeters than in inches, because in centimeters, we are going to just the whole centimeter. We're not going to the half like we did with inches. So let's look at using a ruler to measure centimeters. We're using the ruler today, but instead of using the inch side right here, we're actually using the other side, which is the centimeter side. So make sure when you're measuring centimeters that you are using the cm. Cm stands for centimeter. So centimeters are much smaller. I want you to look here. This inch from 0 to 1, that is 1 inch. From 0 to about 2.5 centimeters is the length of 2.5 centimeters. So an inch is bigger than a centimeter. A centimeter is much smaller than an inch, and it's going to take more of them today to measure out these objects. So let's look at centimeters. We start at 0, just like always. If your ruler doesn't have a 0, you start at the very beginning of the ruler. You never start at 1. Okay, we never, ever, 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 ever start at 1 when we're measuring things. So we're going to start at 0, and we're going to measure it out to the very tip. And here it is landing on 10 centimeters exactly. Now, if it landed in the middle here, it would be 1/2 of a centimeter. But in 3rd grade, we are not even worried about half centimeters. We are looking at just the whole centimeter. So today, all of our answers are going to be whole numbers with no fractions. I also want you to look and see how long this would be in inches. This would be 4 inches long. So I want you to just kind of keep that in your head. It takes about 10 centimeters to make 4 inches. So centimeters are less than half of the size of an inch. So they are very small. They're smaller than 1/2 an inch. So they are tiny. So that is why we can fit 100 of them in a meter stick, and we can only fit 36 inches in a yardstick. All right, let's look here. We are measuring the exact same objects that we measured yesterday, but we are going to be using our centimeter side instead of our inch side. Line up the tip of your object, whatever you're measuring, with 0, and then look at where it ends. So here it ends on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It ends at about 12 centimeters, so we're going to put 12, and we're going to put cm after that, and that stands for centimeters. And like I said, in measuring, we are going to use abbreviations to represent what we're measuring, just because it's a lot easier than writing out centimeters. It saves your hand some time, and also your wrist won't hurt as bad after our lesson today. Now, when you are measuring the height of something with centimeters, you rotate your ruler just like you do with your inches, but you want to make sure you're on your centimeter side. The biggest thing here is to know what you're measuring. If you're measuring with inches, you use the inch side. If you use centimeters, you're going to want to make sure you're using the centimeter side. So here we started at 0 on the centimeter side, and we're going to see about how many centimeters tall our Among Us character is. And if I look at the top of him and bring that over here, he is about 6 centimeters tall. So 6 centimeters is our answer here. Next, we have our earthworm. Notice that I had to move him from down here to up here to measure because we're using the centimeter side. Now, we're going to line him up with 0, and we are going to look at where he lands. The tip of his face lands right at about 9 centimeters, okay? So like I said, measuring in centimeters is easier because you are not having to worry about the half marks in 3rd grade. Later on, you might have to worry about like those half marks, but right now we're just looking at the big numbers up here. And with inches, if we were to measure him with inches, we could look down here at how long he would be, and he would fall right at about the 3.5 inch mark. So again, centimeters are smaller than inches. All right, next we have our loot llama. How tall will our loot llama be? We start at the 0, we're on the centimeter side. We're measuring height. So I rotated my ruler to stand up. And if we look very carefully, the tip of his ears are about at 5 centimeters. So we're going to round up to 5 centimeters. Now, if they're not exactly on there, you're just going to want to go with the closest one that it is. And this one is 5 centimeters. If I wanted to measure him over here with inches, he would be about 2 inches tall, showing that, again, centimeters are smaller than inches. Next, we have our fun-sized Twix bar. We're going to line it up with 0 centimeters, and make sure you're always lining it up with 0, not with the 1. And we're going to see where that ends. It ends right about here at the 4 centimeter mark. So it's going to be 4 centimeters. I accidentally left inches up. It's centimeters, that should be cm. Okay? And last but not least, we have our Squishmallow, and our Squishmallow is going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 centimeters tall. Okay? So when you are measuring with centimeters, make sure you're on the centimeter side. Make sure you use the right abbreviation, unlike I did on the last one. And make sure that you are using the right side of your ruler. And we're looking at the closest centimeter today, okay? If you have any questions, please let me know. Check out my video where I show you how to use a ruler to measure with centimeters. And let me know if you have any questions. Thanks, guys. Bye.